Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout their business career and share them with us as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method about 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, we have our special guest, Dani Klein. She is the owner of Laughter on Call, providing team building, morale boosting, and leadership training for companies. And she also works with healthcare training focused on Alzheimer's care, which is pretty cool. So, Dani, welcome to the show. And I want to start off with a question that I love to ask. And it is this: if you had a time machine to travel back when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh, thank you so much for that question, Jason. I even as you were saying it, I was like, "Oh, trust your instincts, trust your instincts, trust your instincts." Probably the hardest thing. I had a lot of great instincts. Somebody told me years ago, "Oh, wait, this was when I was still an actor," and they were like, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur." And I remember hearing that as, "Oh, you're not talented." But that's not what they were saying. They were
Okay.
just saying that my instincts are to create and to create work for others. Like I do love that. And I was insecure about my knowledge of the nuts and bolts of business and the money. And so I hired a CFO and he was not nice.
Okay.
He did not treat me well. And I didn't, it took me like several years to be like, you know what? No. And he did some things that I had to do damage control over. And so I would say that's like the biggest one. Like know what you know. Like trust what you know and
Mm,
trust because I feel like being an entrepreneur is so much about people skills and being able to read a room and then trusting that what you're feeling and experiencing is legitimate and not to be like, oh, well, I don't know. Like, no, gotta know,
mm.
gotta know. So,
Yeah. So trust your instinct. Yeah,
yeah.
amazing, amazing. Which is definitely very, very true in business for sure. Is there any particular, looking back over your career, if you were to look back at like a massive challenge that you had in your business and something that's just seemed like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get past this? I'd love to hear what that was, but also what's the lessons you learned from that.
Oh, well, yes, that's such a clear one because we launched in the healthcare space. So the company was created for my mother, essentially, who had Alzheimer's. And I was a comedian and I couldn't make her laugh. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been a comedian for 20 years. I taught stand-up at UCLA in California for 10. I've written books about laughter and family life and I couldn't make my mother smile, let alone laugh. And I was
Wow.
like, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm her daughter. Like maybe I'll just hire a professional to come in. And
Mm,
so I actually did that and it worked. And it did change her experience, her end of care experience. And there's a lot of proof behind that now in terms of like
mm,
laughter and the health benefits of laughter and creating connection, et cetera. And so that was all going great. And I was training in person. All of this is in person because it's 2020, end of 2019.
okay.
And then COVID hit. And
Yeah.
so our entire client base was the most vulnerable population. So I was told by that then CFO actually that, you got to shut down. You're done. Like you're done and it was a rainy Friday in LA. And I was like, oh, we're done. Wow. Okay. But we had a camera because we were training comedians around the world at that point to work with seniors. So we had the camera, and my staff is 30 in their 30s. And so they were like, well, I was like, well, can't we live stream? Isn't that what you guys do? You live stream stuff. And so we started live streaming and made the decision to live stream from Monday through Friday, 12 to 12:30, and called it Lunchtime Laughter. And that was pivotal because I
Mm.
thought those sessions were going to be for seniors and caregivers. And then within 2 weeks, it was perfectly lucid people showing up who just needed the unique experience of shared laughter for
Yeah.
mitigating isolation and connection and all of that, including me and my staff. So it was very, very valuable. And then HR was showing up and corporate leaders were showing up who were like, what are we going to do with our teams all over the world? And then the New York Times picked us up and wrote an article about Laughter on Call. And then Harvard Business Review or Harvard Business School saw it. So then we were invited to there to talk about, companies making the pivot. So that
Yeah.
was, that was like, well, you're gonna fold, or you got to be creative, or you got to think, be creative, find something else. So that was the big,
Wow.
yeah,
That's what an amazing story though. Like
yeah,
that's phenomenal.
yeah,
And it goes to show like the power of resilience around obviously that was a particularly challenging time for people facing type business interacting for sure. But we all go through challenges in our business on one form or another, and just being able to be very fluid and being able to be flexible in the approach. Is there any tips in terms of the mindset that people will need to have around that? Because some people don't like change. They're like, oh no, this is the way we do it. We've always done it this way. But being able to adjust with those things, anything that you see that people really stumble upon, and any tips that you could give around that?
well, yeah, I would like, it's so interesting because there's a big principle of improv comedy that we integrate into our training is this concept of yes and.
Yeah.
Which is like saying yes and adding to the situation. So your question makes me want to say no. No, no, you cannot be rigid. You won't have flow, and you won't be reading the room, and you won't be knowing your audience. These are all tools, comedy tools that I teach around the world now. Like knowing your audience means like asking questions, staying curious, and making sure you're being responsive, because
Mm,
you can't be rigid. You can't be like, no, it only looks like this if the market is not responding to that. I mean, you can, but you won't have a business. You'll just have like a fun idea or an
yeah.
interesting idea. But if you want a successful business, and look, these changes haven't disappeared. I'm still dealing with, okay, how do we, the age old that you're responding to is leads. How do we get more people? We have wonderful reviews. Nobody ever has a bad time laughing. Like we're very lucky.
Yeah.
But getting more people to know about what we do and the value of what we bring to an organization is still a challenge. It's like, I'm gonna have a conversation about that after we're done. Like that's the challenge. So that doesn't
Yeah.
go away, and you have to be flexible and responsive.
Yeah, yeah, I love that because there is so much in business, isn't there, where no matter what level in business you are, to continue to grow means you have to continue to evolve in what you're doing and looking for new ways. Because obviously, what got you to where you're now isn't going to get you to where you want to go. And
Yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
think
so
this is fascinating. Even when you look at McDonald's, so you look at the most successful companies. McDonald's put in a salad bar, what, 25 years ago? They didn't get in the salad bar business,
mm,
They got in the hamburger business. But if they wanted to respond to the marketplace, they had to put in a salad bar. And now it's gluten free. And, you have to always be listening. I think that's kind of what makes it exciting. Like I'm kind of glad I'm not in the, rubber pipe business, because that is what it is. And I'm sure there's creative ways to sell that, but you don't reinvent that. That's something that people need and they want, and you're going to deliver it. It's how you deliver it, maybe. For
mm,
something that's people, human centered, humans, until we all become AI robots, we have to be, responded to in different ways. So for sure.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so here's a question then. I'd love to ask that because I know that as a comedian, I love speaking from stage. I wouldn't call myself a comedian. I have a very, very dry sense of humor, but you do have to respond to different personality types and different stuff like that. And some people are really fun, some people are really awkward. So in business, to be able to really understand people and respond to different personality types, what are some key things from what you learn in the comedy improv space that can be translated into business to really help people to connect better with their target market and who they're speaking with?
Oh, well, it always comes back to staying curious and listening. Like that's it.
Mm,
That's know your audience. It's getting as much information as you can about what the needs are of the client. So that means you have to ask questions. And that was something that really surprised me early on. I got some training and it's like, oh no, don't get on a call and tell them about who you are and what you do. And I come from Hollywood, so it's like, let me tell you, I'm this and I'm that. No, it's you get on the phone and ask questions and listen to the answers. And then you can respond and create whatever it is that you can not shoehorn is too cynical, but you can uh, create is I guess the best word I can think of what is responsive to what you're hearing. And, I toggle between healthcare and big business. So different, it's a different vibe in healthcare. I am of them because I took care of my mother. So I always say I'm not Jane Goodall, like studying the chimps. Like I'm a chimp. Like I get it. And so I
mm,
can speak in a different language, less formal, definitely more accessible and specific about healthcare that I don't really talk about in the corporate. In the corporate space, I want to talk about what we're talking about, challenges, knowing knowing who the people is that you're trying to reach, listening to what their problem is. It does end up sounding a little bit cliche, which I always resist, but it is like, what problem am I solving for you? Right? So
yeah,
if your problem is generational communication, which is definitely part of the landscape. That's going to be one solution. If your problem is morale, just general morale, that's a different solution. I mean, they're all grounded in creating connection through laughter because that's what I believe in, and
mm,
I believe that it's
yeah.
effective. But listening, it always comes down to listening.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right, it is a cliche thing, but I think the more we hear it, the penny drops more and more, and you gotta listen. But sometimes, we just need to keep hearing it. It's like, no, actually listen, and
Okay, good.
it makes such a massive difference. Well, if you look at the next 2 to 3 years of the business, what's your goals? What are you wanting to achieve, and where are you going?
Well, personally, I'm launching the whole speaking gig world. So I'll be doing a TED talk next week or next month. And I definitely want to be on that track to be able to inspire groups of people with my mission about laughter for sure, for sure. Like healthy laughter, laughter that makes people feel good. And I make a great distinction about that, affiliative humor. In terms of the business, I'd like to keep more of my people employed on a regular basis. I'd love to have a full-time programming person who's like, and I have all these people kind of locked and loaded, but I still don't have enough business to support them full time. So I'd
Mm,
like to have regular clients where we're on a retainer, a monthly retainer, and we come in. Like we've done a lot of work with Intuit, for example, a lot of work with them. So why not put us on a monthly retainer? We come in, we'll go to any of your locations and address whatever communication problems you're having. So that's the goal. Like
yeah.
5 Intuits would be great.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. Well, Danny, for anyone that's looking to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, you can just email me, Dani, Dani, at laughteroncall.com, or you can go to the website, laughteroncall.com. And we're Laughter on Call on all social media. So, X and Insta, like to do a lot of videos and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Love to hear from anyone. It's the holiday season. This is our big time to come in and really make a difference. So,
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Danny. It's been great chatting with you. And as a reminder, everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. Find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborne, and that will be in the show notes below.